last time on Dragon Ball Z.
I took on the second generation of Pokemon, which went a lot smoother than the first. It would turn out to be a nice little rest between hard runs, as this generation did not go nearly as smoothly. I started off in Omega Ruby, where I got a Larvitar as my starter in the first run. I then went on to catch a Houndour, a Typhlosion, and a Bagon. Then I lost the Larvitar to a Feraligatr and the rest of my team soon after in the first gym battle. Not a great start. I switched games after this to play normal Ruby, the originals, and the streak of bad luck continued. I then lost 3 more times. So far, Ruby was not doing me any favors in saving time, which was kind of what I needed. Well, what I didn't need, because the first 2 generations of Pokemon took way longer than they should have. On the 5th run in the 3rd generation of Pokemon, I went back to Omega Ruby because, let's be honest, it's the easier of the 2 options I had for the 3rd gen. I got a Crossil as a starter, and I caught a Roselia in the first route. I then dodged the rest of my encounters until the first gym due to a lack of Pokeballs and also just because they weren't very good. The first gym was easy. Roselia one-shot the Omastar, Rhydon, and Quagsire, and the Glameow was no problem for Crossil. After saving Lil Pico, old mate Bryony took me over to Dewford Town, where I got the old run and used it to catch Pokemon in the town and in the routes to the left and right of the town. Once again, like in Gen 2, the timer is paused in the recording because I had another tab open where I think I was watching Adventure Time during this recording, but it is counting down. It's just that it's not displaying it on the screen. It'll end up like a little reveal at the end, just to see how long this generation took me. Put a guess in the comments, why not? I then went and took on the second gym, and again, it was easy. It's probably because of the XP share, which is crazy in the 3D games, but it was just helping me make up time, so I'm not really complaining. And after this, something really crazy happened. Old mate Bryony took us to Slateport, where we did a bunch of unimportant stuff, and I collected this Megastone, which might be useful later, who really knows. Well, here's the clip, unedited. I walk up and out of Slateport, and I kid you not, as my first encounter here is a shiny Axew. Not only is it shiny, which in this game has the odds of 1 in 8,192, and this was not only my first encounter, but also my favorite Pokemon. I started playing Pokemon in Gen 5 when that came out, and since then I've loved Haxorus, and now in my craziest Pokemon challenge, I ran into a shiny Axew. That, I can't even comprehend that. Arceus was clearly on my side and wanted me to keep going. I caught it, but every victory has its downfall, and especially in this series. I soon after lost my Nidoking in a double battle. Disappointing, but I'll happily trade a Nidoking for a shiny Axew any day. I then got into Morville City, where I would take on the 3rd gym leader, and once again, I wiped the floor with Watson. After this gym, there were so many routes before the next gym, and me being in a Nuzlocke took huge advantage of this. I caught a Jolteon just outside of Morville, then a Starmie in the cave on the way to Falibor, AZ's Floette outside of Meteor Falls, Pawniard inside of Meteor Falls, and a Gallade just outside of Lava Ridge Town. Oh, but of course I had to defeat Maxie before that, but he was easy, so with not much else to do in Lava Ridge Town, I finally took on the 4th gym. Due to the pure amount of Pokemon I was catching at this time, I could cover anything that Flannery could throw at me. That's exactly what happened, and the 4th gym was once again a walk in the park. Straight after beating her, May took me to Petalburg, which I would then go to take on Norman, the 5th gym leader. I set up with Axew and used that to take down Norman's Pidgeot, Nidorino, and Goldeen. The Mandibuzz then kind of clapped back and nearly took down Axew, but I knew I was faster, and he was going to heal, so 2 more Dragon Claws would take it down. Then, finally, I took down Norman's Pelipper with my Jolteon. This was definitely the hardest gym so far. Unfortunately, for me, from here it only gets harder. Right before I was about to get my first legendary with Steven in a double battle, I lost my Starmie, but then I got the Latios encounter, which was randomized into a Latios, which is just an odd coincidence. Straight after this, in the route to the right of Morville, I caught an Alakazam, which, if you remember back, like a couple minutes ago, back in Slateport, I got a little item which meant that this guy would become a beast. I switched him onto the team for the Latias, and we moved. On the way to the Weather Institute, I caught a Swablu, and in the Weather Institute, I got a Snubbull instead of the cast form. On the other side of Fortree City, now after battling this random trainer, for a very exciting moment where my shiny Axew would evolve into a shiny Fraxure. Did I mention that it's shiny? After doing the Steven stuff, I went back in Fortree City with my new shiny Fraxure, who I like to call Tusks. I went to take on the 6th gym. Winona started with a Latios, which is a strong start, but with all the Pokemon I've caught, I had plenty which could counter this. I then brought in Tusks against her Plusle and used it to set up a couple of Dragon Dances to then hopefully sweep through Winona's team. Tusks took down the Plusle, Kecleon, Kadabra, Chikorita, and finally somehow her Volcarona, all in one shot. Tusks is crazy. Maybe even better than Kef. Out with the old, in with the new. I then went and copped this blue orb thingy and spent what felt like a year in the Magma hideout until I made it out and headed straight into the 7th gym, where the unthinkable would occur. Against a Magnezone, I lost the Scrafty I had since the very start of the game, since before the 2nd gym. This put heavy strain on my team now because I had the same 6 in my party for such a long time at this point. I did not know who to bring in from the PC that would round out the team nicely and replace Scrafty, but as long as I had Tusks, I was sure that it would all be okay in the end. Right? After beating Tate and Liza, I went into the next long drawn out Team Magma moment. After making my way through the cave, I took on Maxie for the 2nd time, but this time he did not hold back. With a Kalava, a Houndoom, a Gallade, a Cubchoo, a Kricketot, and a Mega Metagross, the team looked very scary on paper, well, except for the Cubchoo and Kricketot, but we don't talk about them. They all eventually went down, with Crustle being the main reason for it, and it was time for the Groudon encounter. This was a huge moment because the result of this encounter could make the rest of the game that much easier for me. Maybe even saving me some time. Who knows? It was literally useless. A Jirachi. I mean, I will never deliberately catch a Jirachi. You'll never see that happen. So I took it down with Tusks, and as a result of this, Tusks would evolve into its final form. I now had a shiny Haxorus, and the world was saved. But my mission was not over, and I went on to take on the final gym of the game, and it was nothing. However, after doing this, I noticed that I had one spare spot on my team. Maybe I should have caught the Jirachi? I had been using Latias as a HM slave, which I majorly regret now, and in a moment of weakness, I switched in my Pawniard and Gallade, trying to fill the hole that was left from Scrafty. But I replaced my Mega Alakazam with the Gallade. A horrible move, and it would seriously cost me. I sped through this easy victory road and destroyed Wally, making it to the Elite Four. But little did I know that I just wasn't entirely ready for this challenge in front of me. I took down Sydney, Phoebe, Glacier, and Drake. Easily. I mean, I had Tusks. What real threat do they have for that? It's like Dialga last time, and Kef the first time. I sit on one Pokemon the entire game. But this time it's a shiny Haxorus, so it's a bit cooler, let's be honest. Well, they may have not had anything on Tusks, but Steven certainly did. I made my way into his room and prepared myself to take him on. He started with a Fortress, which had nothing on my Jolteon, so it would have nothing on Tusks. Tusks would obliterate it. And I took it down cleanly. But then, Steven sent out a Dialga. And we weren't even up to his Mega yet. It's only his 2nd Pokemon. But clearly Steven was not playing. I had no clue what to do against this, and clearly he knew this, as I brought in Tusks to set up, and he took Tusks down in one shot. I brought in Gallade, who I thought might have a fighting move, but no way that would be the case. Why would I prepare at all for the final fight of the game? It's not like if I win this fight, I move on. Gallade went down, then Jolteon, then Crustle, then Pawniard, and finally, Roselia. It was all over. What seemed like the perfect run was ruined in the final battle of the game because of a few bad decisions on my part. Well, a lot of them. But I wasn't going to give in. On my now 6th run of the game, I got a Gible as a starter and slowly formed my team throughout the rest of the game, catching a Vullaby, Heliolisk, Gyarados, Mega Diancie, and a Salamence. It's safe to say I got Karma for such an unfortunate loss of a run. I again faced Steven, but this time the circumstances were different, because I was ready. I had a much stronger team, not just relying on one Pokemon, and I was able to nicely counter his entire team. This was the point where I realized the timer hadn't been up the entire recording, and I put it up now so you can see that I took around 15 hours to beat the 3rd generation of Pokemon, and I was now almost halfway through the time I had for this challenge, and I hadn't even beat half the games. I would seriously have to play catch up if I wanted to complete this challenge. That's all for this. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next video. Subscribe.